Hello, lovelies! Happy Valentine's Day if you're watching this on the release date. Not that we should need a holiday to remind us to appreciate our loved ones, but why isn't there a holiday to remind us to appreciate ourselves? Ourselves. Perhaps today is the perfect day, and every day at that. So, hi, my name is Dr. Lisa Matejka. I help those with cancer navigate their inner journey towards health and wellness on all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, energetically, spiritually, so that they can stack the odds in their favor and self-realize wholeness without having to suffer and go at it alone. And today I'm going to share with you a few things on self-love, why it's important, why it's hard, what it really is, and how we can start to love ourselves. So, why is self-love important if you have cancer? Well, to be fair, this video is valuable for everybody, but absolutely essential if you have been diagnosed with cancer. In order to increase your probability for healing, you need to not just treat your physical body, but you need to treat your mind, your emotions, perhaps change your focus, your outlook. Maybe it's time you need to finally step into your power, heal the past, face your shadow, let go, find gratitude, break through some fears, and more. Self-love is foundational to all of those things and more, and everything really, in my opinion. I can tell you based on scientific studies, which I have dived further into in articles I wrote if you're interested, but cancer patients who have had spontaneous remissions have been studied to see what they have in common. And one of the things was that they focused on love rather than fear and channeled to themselves love. So I probably don't even need to say this, but just to be clear, when I'm talking about self-love, aka self-esteem, self-worth, I'm not talking about self-importance, aka being egotistical. You know, the person that seems to love themselves all too much. So that is the person that props themselves up and tears others down, really because they're lacking true self-love, which is why they need to substitute with that need for significance. So that's not what I'm talking about here, but it's because their ego is protecting them from the fear of not being enough. And that brings me to reason number one, why it is really hard to love ourselves. So this is very important. The reason we all have a really hard time loving ourselves unconditionally is because each and every one of us, as our base primary root fear, has the fear that we are not enough. Somehow we're just not enough. Have you felt that? It presents in all kinds of ways. It could be superficial. I'm not pretty enough. My body's not fit enough. I don't have enough money, to things like I'm not successful enough. And I'm not capable enough, smart enough, educated enough, skillful enough to ever be successful. Maybe I'm scared I'm not a good enough parent, good enough at my job. I must not be good enough if my partner left me. I can't do this, I can't do that. I don't have enough self-control to stop X, Y, and Z bad behaviors, so on and on. And then this gets expressed in a variety of ways. It's not always that really obvious self-loathing and depression. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just like shows up as mild anxiety, mild depression, unrest, different forms of self-sabotage. And it's because we have repressed this primary fear, these fears and feelings, so that we are not even totally aware of our true lack of self-love. After all, life is busy. We get on autopilot, got shit to do, get in our routines, and then it's just like, who has time for self-reflection? I know a lot of you do, that's why you're here today. And then other times it comes out in the opposite way, kind of like I explained earlier. The egotistical people, they have a really hard time facing their not enoughness, which is why the ego steps in and protects them. Like, what are you talking about? I'm awesome. I'm amazing. Look at me. I am better than all these people. And so they feel better as long as there's people below them. If that's you, it's okay. It's a lot of us, and we've all done it at some point. Reason number 2. Another reason why it is so hard to love ourselves unconditionally is because we were conditioned from a very young age on conditional love, for conditional love. As young kids, if we did something bad or something dangerous, love was perceived to be taken away. Not that it actually was taken away, usually it isn't, but to the young child, it feels like it is, and it's that feeling that matters, that ingrains itself into our neurochemistry. So, and then if we do something good, love is perceived to be given to us in abundance. So we are trained to earn love, and that we're worthy of love when we earn it by what we do, not by inherently who we are. And then this is mirrored in school and in the workplace. And then there's things, not to mention like societal programming, what it means to be a productive member of society or worthy of love. You gotta look a certain way, act a certain way, maybe even think a certain way, judged by what you do for a living, etc., etc. So we take all this in internally, and it seems to be all about external validation. We're not taught enough internal validation, and instead we are shown external validation or invalidation. So yeah, it's unfortunate. So let me be clear. No one has the authority to tell you that you are not good enough. No matter what you have done or what you have not done, you are worthy of love. So, number 3, another reason why we find it really hard, have a hard time loving ourselves, is because we are falsely believing the reasons why we shouldn't. And this can be things like I mentioned previously, the parental conditioning, societal programming, that external validation, relying too much on what other people say and what other people think. People give us negative feedback and we take it in. But we take it in, and then it eventually becomes our own. Like, we think it's our own, and then it does become our own. It becomes our own thoughts and our own feelings. Aren't we our own harshest critic? Aren't we our jury, judge, and executioner oftentimes? Don't we look in the mirror and we can see everything that's wrong, but do we see everything that's right? We expect perfectionism because anything less is perceived to be a failure, and failure is a tough pill to swallow. That is actually a really big topic that I would like to say more on, perhaps in another video. So what is self-love anyway? What does it look like? This is how I think about it. True self-love means you can see your greatness and you can see your flaws. And you don't beat yourself up about them because you know that you're doing the best you can with what you have in that moment. But you still strive to be better, not because you're not good enough, but because you know you're capable and worth it. True self-love means some of what you may have referred to as your flaws in the past can now be viewed through the lens of your uniqueness. We're all so unique. So great. True self-love is all about self-acceptance. Now, acceptance doesn't mean like, well, I'm kind of an asshole and that's just who I am, so I accept it and I'm just going to be an asshole. No, that is an excuse and a giving up, because you may not love yourself enough to expect better. I just had to make that distinction. True self-love is knowing that no matter where you may be now, you know your potential is more. In fact, it's limitless. And that is not a cause for self-deprecation if you have self-love. That is a cause for self-celebration. True self-love, this is another important one. I guess it's all important. True self-love is an awareness of and the courage to face the bad stuff, the hard stuff, the stuff we don't like about ourselves. So that's like our shadow self, our traumas, our oppressed feelings and emotions, fears, conditioning, patterns, limiting beliefs. If we accept ourselves fully, we can see and accept all of us. The light and the dark, the good and the bad. Every human has a shadow, but it's about what you do with that shadow. Do you let it run you, or are you in charge of it? And integration is ultimately what it is. It's about integration. That's also another big topic. So true self-love is accepting where you are now as perfect in this moment. And then you can choose to go another direction towards self-development, towards self-healing, all that good stuff, whatever floats your boat. Because it's acceptance, not an inferiority complex, that can truly, truly move you forward. So no regrets, none of that. That's a waste of time, my friends. You can't change what has happened, but you can change your reaction to it, and you can change your focus and direction. So, especially on this cancer journey, it's an important one. Focusing on where you want to go, not on where you don't want to go. Focusing on where you want to go, not on where you haven't gone, or not on where you don't want to end up. So with cancer, again, these people, they focus on going towards love and away from fear. Acceptance is the antidote to resistance. What are you resisting about yourself, especially along this cancer journey? Are you beating yourself up because you think you somehow caused this, or that you could have done more to prevent it? Please, my friends, let's not go down that route. It is a road to nowhere, a fool's errand. What happened happened. It may or may not have had anything to do with your choices or decisions. We'll never really know. So can only change the focus now. Where to go from here? Choose love over fear. Love yourself, be gentle with yourself, and choose love. So I just want to talk a little bit about self-love in relation to love for others. Just a couple of statements that have gone around, so we can talk about them a little bit. RuPaul famously says at the end of every drag race episode, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here? That was a very half-ass attempt of what Ru said. But that is what they say, and it's because it's true. If you can't love yourself, despite all of your baggage, failures, perceived flaws, all that stuff, then how can you truly love another with all of theirs? Remember, we can't pour from an empty cup. I've heard sort of a reversal of this statement as well. I have heard, no one can love me more than I love myself. Now, what does this mean? You may be thinking, as I did when I first heard it, well, even if I dislike myself, that doesn't mean other people are going to dislike me. If I dislike myself, can't other people still love me? So the way I interpret that is, if you truly dislike yourself, then you're not probably going to be open to receiving the love that others bear for you, because you are not going to feel worthy of it. So we need to not only be giving, but receiving of love, especially along a cancer journey, because another thing studies have shown is cancer patients fare much better and have a higher likelihood of survival when they have a good support system And it doesn't have to be a lot of people. But the important thing with that too is it's not just people willing to support them. It's about them surrendering and allowing the support and allowing the love. So yeah, that is an important part of that as well. Love is the difference maker in how we show up in this world. So give it, take it, be it. I guess another way to interpret that phrase, no one can love me more than I love myself, is that it is my job, my sacred responsibility to, through and through, love myself unconditionally, all the perceived bad, everything. And no one can be more acquainted with that than me. So I'm still pondering this one a bit. So if you guys have any thoughts on that phrase, no one can love me more than I love myself, please feel free to share. Okay, so practical applications here. How can we develop self-love? I mean, there's countless ways, but let me share a couple with you here. One practical application is we can do an inventory of awesomeness. I'm totally borrowing this from Peter Sage, by the way. And you write down everything you like about yourself, no matter how small, no matter how trivial, everything. Write it down, add to it every day. And then also find common characteristics you have in common with other people you admire. So not outcomes. I'm not talking about outcomes, I'm talking about characteristics. So for example, say you like Tony Robbins. You don't need to, compare your accomplishments, but what do you have in common? Are you also a high energy person like him? Are you also a good listener? Are you also a good spouse? Do you also have a deep care for people? So yeah, a couple things to do there. With self-love, like many things though, it's not just about gaining or revealing, it's about removing blocks. And I suppose you are revealing if you're removing blocks. But yes, a big part of it is removing barriers to self-love. And some really big barriers to self-love are guilt and shame. This is where self-forgiveness comes in. So we touched on that, self-acceptance. Forgiveness is very important. Forgiveness, remember, does not mean condoning the behavior. You also remember, like, you are not your behavior. You are more than your behavior. A person is more than your behavior, than their behavior. Forgiveness is recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, big and small, and so be willing and ready to let it go. Self-forgiveness is liberation from punishment. My guess is if you feel guilty, then you have probably already learned what it is that you did wrong and what it is you would do next time, regardless if there even is a next time or not. Because that's what it's all about, learning. And that's what life's about. That is what life's about. Life is about learning and growing. So accept the lesson, accept yourself, and then move on with grace. Let that shit go. The thing about guilt and shame too, okay, I'm going to be real with you guys. If you have cancer and you are carrying around guilt and shame, you are going to have a much more difficult time healing. Your chances of healing are greatly diminished because guilt and shame are very low vibrational energies. So everything is energy and can be reduced to subtle energy fields. Everything has a frequency, even emotions. And guilt and shame are some of the lowest. Shame is actually lower than guilt, but guilt is still very much down there. So these lower energies in our bodies, if we keep them there, they bring down the frequency of our body. And cancer is a low frequency as well. So we need to raise ourselves into a higher frequency for that healing to occur. And that's why those heavy feelings like guilt and shame, they feel heavy, don't they? They're gravitational. They're more particle, less wave. And then those higher energies like love and gratitude, don't they feel lighter, joy? Because they're more radiational. They're more wave and less particle. So I believe, as many people do, that if you carry around these lower frequency emotions like guilt and shame, over the years it can manifest in the physical body as various conditions, disease, including cancer. So if you think you have some guilt and shame issues, please do some inner work and work on letting that shit go. And this topic actually deserves a lot more time than we have here, so I think I'll do another video about it. But yeah, and sometimes it's subconscious, and that's like, so we don't even really know, and that's why it's important to like do the inner work and not be afraid to face all of ourselves. Self-love, it's coming in again. So yeah, guilt and shame. All right, I guess that's all I have to say about the guilt and the shame for now. So humility, being humble, is high self-love and low self-importance. And Mother Teresa said it best. She said, when you're humble, nothing can touch you, neither praise nor disgrace, because you know who you are. That's what she said. And I'll add to that. This is what I say. Did you know you are rarer than the rarest jewel? I mean, for real, there's only one of you. You are made from primordial stardust, for goodness sake. If you believe your creator or the universe put you here in this lifetime, wasn't it for a reason? Wasn't it to recognize your gifts and share them? Wasn't it to own your greatness and be the best you can be? All of that begins with self-love. Or maybe you believe you're just here because two people had sex. That's totally fine too. Even then, you were born a champion. You won the toughest race in the world before you were even born. The part of you that was the sperm beat the other's ass 400 million to 1. 400 million to 1. And the part of you that was the egg chose the part of you that was the sperm. Those are actual facts. So either way, scientific or spiritual, you are a miracle and a winner and meant to be here. So go celebrate yourself. If you remember anything, remember this. No matter what you have done and no matter what you have not done, you are worthy of love from yourself, from everybody, but everybody doesn't matter. You matter. Love yourself. Go celebrate yourself today, everybody. It is Valentine's Day. If you have a romantic partner, don't forget about them. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for watching my very first video in this series. I will be releasing one every week as a cancer transformation guide, so stay tuned. If you feel like this helped in any way or you think it might help somebody else, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I hear leaving comments helps the algorithms. So yes, I actually just want to share something too. A little bit of a synchronicity here. As I realized in my first video happened upon Valentine's Day, I loved that. It was like, oh, and I get to share my message of love with those on their cancer journey. And then I realized it's another important cancer anniversary for me. It actually was this day 14 years ago that my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And it was after his death that it became my mission to help others increase their chances for healing. So I still work with people one-on-one as a naturopathic practitioner, an energy worker, but now I'm realizing I'm called to share a message with a larger audience and expand my light further. So this mission is bigger than myself. So please like, like, subscribe, leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share so that we can spread this message. And more to come to as many people as we can. All right, my lovelies. Much love.